Hello and welcome to, what month is it? January? Welcome to the January 2025 version of the Philmont Trek Talk live chat in association with the Philmont Trek Talk group on Facebook and very much not associated with Philmont Scout Ranch itself. All right. We are renegades. We are not official. Keep that in mind with everything we tell you. Okay. And also, you're going to get exactly what you paid for in this broadcast. So keep that in mind as well. Let's see. What do we need to address right up front? If you're out there watching, please leave a comment, interact with us. This is much more interesting when we have some audience participation and you don't rely on us to entertain you. And Mark dropped. Let me bring him back in. There we go. We have musical chairs here with our panelists. They keep changing their positions on the screen. But before they move again, let's get some introductions done. Hi, I'm Jeff. I'll be your tour guide this evening. I am the former skipper of Sea Scout ship 4019 because, yes, Sea Scouts can play with the Dirt Scouts and go to Philmont. And also the proprietor of GearReport.com, where we do lots of articles and videos talking about Philmont. And, Rob, you know what I forgot to... You remember right before we went live, I said, I know I got to get some screens up and have them ready to go. I forgot to load Rob's website. I'm going to work on that while you introduce yourself.
That's all right. That's all right. So, well, I'm Rob Smith, High Adventure Chair for Troop 85 in O'Fallon, Illinois, near St. Louis. Also the proprietor of HighAdventureScouting.com. And yeah, that's a great picture too. I like that.
It is. Did you take that picture?
No. And obviously only two of us got the memo to wear the correct Philmont shirt. So Chris and I are on we're on there.
I can't wear mine. My daughter hijacked it.
I've got one from the 80s that I can't wear anymore, and I shouldn't. That's what I was told. So
I have a prescribed shirt that I have to wear at all of these. So.
Yeah. All right, that's it.
All right, which is funny. It's funny you mentioned that shirt, and I just stepped all over the guest there. Curtis, I am sorry. But that's what you get for picking me up and carrying me across a campsite in front of everyone in a very aggressive manner, by the way.
That's right.
I can't wait to hear about it.
Yeah. No, what was I going to say? See, I forgot what you just go ahead. I don't remember.
So I'm Curtis Duncan. I am a crew advisor for Crew 6101 and the adult leader in Troop 6101. I've done several Philmont summer treks, winter treks, autumn trek, and actually staffed at Wood Badge at Philmont. So I had a little bit of experience. I'm also a registered nurse with some background in ER and ICU. So we'll be talking about some medical stuff this evening.
Yeah, that'll be good. Mark?
I'm Mark Schwer. I'm from Iowa City, Iowa. And I'm a life member of the Philmont Staff Association. 9 years on staff in the 80s. And so many Philmont treks, I can't count them all. And I've pretty much done a whole lot of Philmont.
You said the 80s, and to my brain, that's like a few years ago. So it kind
like
of
the
freaked
whole
me out.
decade.
Yeah, right.
I forgot you were in Iowa. I'm actually in Iowa right now too, Mark. I'm in Marshalltown right now. So.
Oh, are you at Fisher Rosemount?
Work.
Or...
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm going there tomorrow. Yeah. There you go. All right, sorry.
All right, stranger, you want to introduce yourself?
My name is Andy Parrish. Have a little YouTube channel called Andy Parrish Outdoors. Do all different kinds of high adventure stuff on my own and with the Scouts. I'm the high adventure chair for Pack 152 in Westfield, Indiana, and have led a Philmont trek. We did Colorado a year ago, and we're going back to Philmont this coming summer.
Sorry, I'm slow. It took me a minute to get this one loaded up. So there we go.
Yeah.
I try to be sure everyone gets their fair shot at some promotion in here. So if you want to go check out, you go check out highventurescouting.com. That link is in the description. Or if you want to go see all the cool things Andy Parrish Outdoors talks about, then you can find that link in, not the description, in the chat. That's where it is. So thank you, everyone, for being here. Really appreciate you. So now we're going to dive into a couple things. First, did anyone notice the image behind you? Like it's back here behind us. I posted it. Mainly, I was just feeling a little bit salty when I was coming up with this. I said, you know what? I'm going to see if anyone's actually paying attention. And it is an image of kids building a campfire and cooking in their tent, generated by AI. So I just thought I'd have a little bit of fun with that. And I did get called out on it, and it wasn't as fun as I thought it was going to be, getting called out. So I should have remembered that that's not always as entertaining as you would have thought. So that could be dangerous. That could cause medical problems, from starting a fire in the tent, right? This is my segue, Curtis. So we talked about one of the things we talked about that I thought was a fascinating discussion over the summer was different types of hydration. Now, am I knocking people out, or are they doing it here? I don't know.
No, I was having a little bit of internet connection. I tried to get onto a different channel there real quick, see if it would help out.
Okay. All right. So did you pull yourself and I put you back in? Okay.
No, I just dropped and then came back.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Andy says, hey, everyone. So good. Thank you. We appreciate that. So anyhow, we had talked about hydration, different types of hydration, and some things you need to watch out for and be careful of when you're attempting to coach people or direct people. Watch out for your scouts or even your other adults as they're attempting to stay hydrated at Philmont and other places like that. So do you want to dive in? If I try to explain it, I'm going to get it wrong. So I'm going to let you talk about vascular hydration, cellular hydration, the use and abuse of Gatorade and other things like that. And his little signal meter dropped as soon as I
put him on the spot.
Tried to hand that off to him and Rob both. Their signal meters dropped to like 0. So we may have to move on and come back to that topic when their signals rejoin us. So let's do that. Let's move on to the next item for now. And when they get themselves their signal, so Rob's signal is sorted, and we've lost Curtis. So what should a crew be doing now if they're trekking coming up here in 25? Where should we be with physical training, with skills training, with paperwork and crew stuff? Everyone's got dates now, so if they haven't got travel figured out, right, that's something people should be looking at. What else?
Yeah, I know our group, we've been doing, buying train tickets, getting that stuff solidified. We've been talking a little bit about gear selection, especially going into the holidays, people trying to equip themselves with whatever they don't have.
Sure.
If they can get all that stuff on sale. We've got, right now, we're thick in the middle of trek selection. So we're, as a crew, looking through all the, the itineraries and making notes and going to that. What was the other Philmont site that, Jeff, you had somebody on one of the previous live streams that has a great website that can help you break down some of the different itineraries and looking at the camps. And so I've been using that to kind of spread information. Hey, take a look at this. What do you think of that? Keep this in mind and also sort. For example, we had some boys that had specific activities that they wanted to try and incorporate as best they could. So you can go over there and you can enter, I think, up to 3 different activities, program stuff that then see if there's any that overlap, 1, 2, 3, that kind of thing. Yep. So just coming up with ideas and everybody throwing out their votes for their top 3, and then eventually then we were going to submit that. I know we were kind of trying to press that for this week.
Sure. And so you're using Michael Rounds, I believe is the gentleman's name, who is the proprietor of philtrek.com. Longtime staff member, PSA member, very passionate about this. So you're using his tool. I believe the Gateway has something built in that crews can use as well. But I've never been a lead advisor, so I've never had access to the stuff in the Gateway. So
Right. And I'm not the lead advisor this year. Our Scoutmaster is going to be that. He's never been in that role. So I've been able to get to this tool and use this. So
yeah. And I think that's a great thing to reinforce, especially for the people who are new at this, that not everyone is going to have access. And Brian was watching along while I was bringing up Philtrek in the background. He said Philtrek. Yeah. So thanks for that. Yeah. Appreciate you. Let's see. I'm looking to see if Curtis is frozen or if he's moving again. I think his part of Texas may be suffering from internet issues. Yeah, he's moving. Okay. Awesome. So we'll come back to him in just a minute. Anything else? What else? Where should a crew be in terms of? So we know about Trek selection. That's coming up. Does anyone want to talk about processes for Trek selection before we drop off of that topic? Because a lot of crews are going through that right now, or wrapping that up, I guess, so they can get their stuff in the Gateway. You don't have to have it in on day one, right? They open it up.
Well, in my opinion, crews not only need to think about what activities they want to do, but do they want to hit the North Country? Do they want to hit the South Country?
Sure.
Do they want to come in over the tooth? Do they want to try to hit the tooth? All those things are, play into where you go, what you get to do. And how strenuous do you want to be?
So,
crew capabilities.
Crew capabilities, certainly. But so activities. So here's something that I had not really completely wrapped my head around, that the more miles you do, the less time you have for activity. So this is pretty basic, but I'm not that smart. So it takes me a while to figure these things out sometimes. But I would think that would be kind of early on. Do you where you're going to decide as a crew, do we want to do more of the program activities in backcountry, or do we want to hit more miles, more peaks, see a larger geographic area? Because you can do a trek that's like 50 something miles, or you can go up to 70, 80 miles. I don't know what the top mileage is this year, but you can have a very large amount of variability in what kind of distance you travel, which means how long do you have each day that you're hiking versus how much time you have to do program stuff. How do you have that conversation with your crew to figure out where on that spectrum of super strenuous, lots of miles, not a lot of time for program, versus let's hike as little as possible and do as much program stuff as possible? How do you get your finger on the pulse of the crew for that?
Well, as a generalization, what I've seen over the years is your younger crews, first time to Philmont kids, it's better to have a shorter trek, more program. And if you got a group of older kids that are a little more seasoned and can really knock it out of the park, then they probably want the physical challenge of doing a longer trek.
Yeah, could be. So
I always say Philmont's more of a program, and we've said this before, program with some hiking and backpacking around it. You can, I tell my guys, we can backpack 100 miles somewhere else for a lot cheaper. But
yep,
just that's my
Colorado maybe.
Yeah, Colorado. I think that's only a 35-mile track, though. So
Yeah. Well, so we did Lost Creek Wilderness in Colorado with our boys. It was actually, I think, 2 summers ago, and that trek was about 35 miles, lots of vertical. I looked at, now we're doing a shorter trek. We're only doing a 7-day trek this coming summer at Philmont. But looking at even the super strenuous ones, I didn't think any of them really matched up with what we did over a 4-day trek in Colorado, where we were doing 13-mile days and 3,000-foot verticals on 2 of those days back to back. The bookends, the first and the last day, were 5 or 6 miles, and that was kind of an average, Philmont day. So, I have some experience now with these boys that are the exact same ones that are going on the Philmont trip, and they're 2 years older, and they're, 16, 17-year-olds. So if they can do that kind of thing, that's really helped us kind of say, hey, take a look at what you really want to do. I don't think there's anything off the table. But if we, like Mark said, if we had a lot of younger scouts that are just kind of barely making the age to be able to go, I'd probably look at, have we done much backpacking? Hopefully you have, so that you can kind of shape them in a certain direction. But ultimately, it's their choice. And if they want to, go big or go home kind of thing, then you just have to prepare for it. You got to do the work physically. But if we've got the younger scouts, looking at the first half of the options is probably fair. If you've got older scouts or very athletic, or, a lot of our guys are going to be in the midst of summer training for fall high school sports. So the harder time is, the dads keeping up with them rather than, us worried about whether they're going to be able to finish the job or not.
And I've always liked to when I've started off my cruise is right when we start talking about kicking off for Philmont, we were signing everybody up. You start having that conversation then, so you have access to previous year's treks and stuff, so you can start pulling that information off. Show them, hey, this is what hitting the trails and doing your shit on hikes. We kind of do it, kind of start feeling like on your legs, but now we're going to start adding. And so when it comes to the January of this year, and we got to do a trek, what it's going to do this.
I disabled Curtis's camera, hoping that would free up some bandwidth for him.
Each time, please not do such a strenuous trek. But they're going like, we're going 30 and above. We're going to make sure, trek 4, trek. Yeah. So just making sure that they understand, and at that point is as you're doing your shakedown hikes. Shakedown hikes are key. You're seeing how the boys are doing. On this last trek, I took 3 crews out. That's probably not appropriate. And so I had them to be able to keep up the pace that they need to be doing for that type of trek. But they looked at it and said, no, we're going to sacrifice our privilege. And so that's what they did. So just leave it up to them. Let them make the decision. And then you just try to keep up or push them along.
Yeah, I think as long as you're within a certain margin, then you can leave it up to them completely. I think that you have to, personally, I think you got to be cognizant if you have any adults that just plain aren't going to be able to hack it, then you may have to throttle them a little bit and say, okay, I know you want to do super strenuous, but Mr. Jeff, I could be able to keep up if you do that, or something like that,
Right.
But yeah, aside from that, I really like the idea of saying, make your decision. It's your crew. Yeah. Cool. So I don't know if you heard Curtis. I toggled your camera off, hoping that would give you a little better bandwidth, so your audio would stop dropping out. So if you want to turn it back on, you're welcome to. You can leave it off, whatever. I don't know if it's helping or not, but that's why I turned it off for you.
No, as long as I'm not all choppy. Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. So let's see. So we're January. We got February, March, April, May, getting into June. We're 5 to 7 months, depending on when people are trekking this summer. 5 to 6.5 months, something like that. So let's see. Thoughts for how can crews be doing physical preparation when the weather doesn't necessarily cooperate with them, like we're seeing right now? It's cold in a lot of parts of North America. How should people be working on the physical fitness side of getting ready when it's cold outside? Anyone?
So I have the luxury of being in a university town, and back at one time we had access to the arena, and we could go over and hike the aisles in the arena.
An indoor arena?
What?
Indoors?
Yeah, the
nice.
The large arena that the Hawkeyes play in. And we'd be doing our laps in the aisles, and the wrestlers would be over there carrying each other up and down the steps, you know. It's always fun to watch. But, you know, go to any kind of big building that has maybe 5 or 6 stories and make laps in stairwells and stuff. That's a great way to do it.
It's a good plan. I've seen some people in the group posting pictures of doing that in parking decks, stairwells in parking decks, for example.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Good options.
So I'm a fan of, just in-house, body weight workouts, starting with some burpees. You can do those anywhere. Push-ups, running in place. Now you can scour the internet for free workout videos. They have them on YouTube. They have them, free on your phones and any of your fitness, apps. You can get free workouts that are just body weight workouts or minimal weight workouts that will do you plenty. Number one, I'm a big believer in strengthening your core because that's going to help out a lot, but also to get your cardiovascular going. But we would do things called commando burpees. So if you want to look that up on the internet and do it, but I think we did some of those that I carried you. So over at Blue Stem.
It was Blue Stem. I couldn't remember the name of the campsite. Do you want to explain that, by the way? Why you forcibly picked me up off the ground and were like screaming at me as you carried me across the campsite?
Yeah. So what's the first way to prevent injuries at Philmont? No horseplay, right? That's the first thing. And so, don't be horseplaying. That's the easiest way to get injured. So what's the first thing to do at our first camp, right? So we're doing skits, and so we're just kind of doing some icebreakers and just kind of loosening up the crews after their first little trek into the night. We're at Blue Stem, our trail camp, and so we made them go off in there, have to do all these different stuff, and so our ranger was like, well, are y'all going to do something too? And we're like, oh, okay, yeah. And so we thought of what ours is going to be, and came up and it was going to be trail etiquette. And so we're going to do a couple of examples. The first thing is what not to do. And then the second one is what to do as you're coming into crews that are coming together. So we had Jeff on one side and me and another adult on the other. I know you can't see my hands because my camera's off, but we're coming at each other. And so what happens is Jeff gives a bump to one of my adult leaders, and I go off on him. I throw him up over my shoulders, and run off like I'm going to throw them out into the woods. Yep, there we go. So yeah. So yeah. So very impromptu and nice rocky unlevel surface.
I wasn't nervous at all.
Both him,
lifted above all those rocks.
Yeah, both him and I, could have got injured. So we did exactly what we tell our scouts not to do. But yeah.
That was a pretty good prelude to me horseplaying later and breaking my foot and having to leave the trail. So horseplay, don't do it. Yeah. So let's see. Why don't we use that as an opportunity to we'll come back to. I want to come back to Trek selection. And I'm going to warn Andy again. We'll see if he drops off the screen when I say we're going to come back to you for Trek selection here shortly. For any of the process or thoughts, or yep, there he goes, or anything. We'll come back for that in a minute. Since Curtis's audio seems to be cooperating right now, let's dive into that Gatorade toxicity discussion. Or that's probably not worded correctly, but hydration.
Overdoing the electrolytes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. Electrolyte toxicity. Yeah. So what you're looking at is on the trail. One of the discussions, Jeff, were about hydration and the types of hydration. Yeah, we had a lot of good, deep discussions about different things, and this happened to be quick hydration and cellular hydration. So if you remember back into your biology, your body's trying to keep a naturally big extremes back and forth. And then you have what's called osmosis, so the transfer of fluids, it's a membrane. So that's how your fluids get in and out of cells. So what we were talking about is the fact that if you go and you're really thirsty, you're dehydrated, and you just go in and you just consume a whole bunch of water at one time. So you think, well, I'm getting hydrated, right? So no, yeah, you're getting what's called vascular hydrated, and what happens is your body just pulls all that fluid into your vascular system. Well, when you do that, all your vessels expand, and there's things called baroreceptors, so they respond to pressure. And kidneys say, hey, there's a lot of pressure in here, we got to get this stuff out. So then you turn around and you start putting that fluid right back out. Well, it never had a chance to get into the cells, which is where all your energy is made in what's called the Krebs cycle. So you get in your mitochondria, need those fluids, needs that electrolytes and that water to be able to go through that Krebs cycle to make energy for you to be able to move your muscles, think, all those kinds of good things. So when you get into the particular case that Jeff was telling me about is a scout that was like hoarding electrolyte drinks and just like nonstop, just drinking double dose electrolyte drinks pretty much all the time. Well, what happens is you start getting all those electrolytes into your system. And what happens when you get a bunch of sodium and stuff, you're into your vascular space, into your blood, your body says, hey, I got to thin that stuff out. That's way too much electrolytes. It's too much stuff in my blood. And I need to start getting some fluid in there to normalize that. So then you start pulling in fluids out of your muscles, out of your brain, out of all, it's pretty much like a dehydration effect. So those are the signs and symptoms that you would see whenever you have somebody that's getting electrolyte toxicity, is you'll start seeing things like muscle cramps. Their muscles could become really weak, jittery. They can get confused, start having vomiting, diarrhea. One of the big things that you got to watch out for is they'll start having cardiac disrhythmias. So you get, your heart gets excitable because they have so much electrolytes in there that causes different cells to start firing off electrical impulse because it's like, hey, there's way too much stuff in here. and then it'll just start firing different things. You get different arrhythmias, and some of those can actually be deadly. One of the things that we worry about as nurses, and you come into situations where we get a patient that has like a really low sodium level. And so we have to give what's called a hypertonic solution. So our normal blood sodium ratio is 0.09%. So we give these people 3% sodium solution to raise that sodium level. We have to do it very, very, very slowly, because what can happen is you get too much of that sodium in there, electrolyte, and they'll start having brain swelling, start headaches, blurry vision. They can even have seizures. So it's very, very important that we watch these young people and ourselves, that we're not just consuming all these electrolyte drinks all the time. So one of the things that you hear is whenever you're consuming electrolyte drink, especially when you're already dehydrated, you want to half strength that. So you don't want to drink full strength or extra strength thinking that it's going to help you out. Now it's probably going to make your situation worse. So you're going to drink a half strength of electrolyte mix, build it back up, do a liter of water, and then after that, maybe do another one if you're really dehydrated. So the way to prevent some of that stuff too is, if you think about at night, they usually give you your hydration drinks in your lunch, maybe your dinner. They don't usually give them a lot in the breakfast, but that's my thinking is probably more, that's where it's more appropriate, is to kind of preload, because you've just done could be a very heavy day. Then if you think about it, you're laying in your tent, you're recovering all night, you're breathing out. When you breathe out, you're breathing out water, and overnight you can lose a liters of water or more, depending on the altitude that you're at, the amount of work that you did that day, and as your body is recovering. So to be able to get those electrolytes back in you, drink water in the morning to help kind of wake your system up, make sure it's good and primed for your day ahead, because you're just going to lose it again. So you want to start off primed.
As a rule of thumb, me personally, when I'm doing things like Philmont Treks,
Any questions?
I try to start every day not like guzzling, but getting at least like 2 liters of water in me before we even leave camp. And that way I'm hydrated when we're starting the day. And it's really hard to get dehydrated when you start out hydrated.
Right.
But if you start out not fully hydrated and then you have a strenuous day, it's really easy to get into a dehydrated, serious situation later, especially if weather conditions, or you get like a really hot day, you can get into trouble in a hurry. So trying to teach the kids and everybody to personally do that every day is a big thing. And that's something that you can do on these shakedown hikes.
Sure.
And things this time of year. Talk about it. Get people used to the idea.
So are you also talking people out of their morning caffeine? Because I think caffeine's a diuretic, right? So you're talking about cameling up and getting some extra fluid in you, not
this is definitely in addition to my chai tea latte.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And then that's a big kind of debate, but actually caffeine is a mild diuretic. So it's going to act more like a stimulant. So when things causing those vessels to tighten up, and then that's where you get those pressures, and then that's where the diuresis comes in. but then you're also drinking fluid with that coffee. So there's water in that coffee. So it's that stuff's going to kind of stick around. So all in all, at the wash, as far as that. So get up, drink a half liter to a liter and in 30 minutes to an hour as you're waking up. People getting around. Personally, I like to get up a little bit earlier so I can have that time to make my coffee, especially when you have we have some good crew leaders that are like, we're getting out of here by 6 a.m. You got to move it. And so we like to get up early to get that extra coffee if you're going to get it in. But yeah, you want to hydrate definitely slowly in the morning. A liter over 30 minutes to an hour is preferably. You don't want to drink that whole liter in 15 minutes. That goes back to the fact that you're just kind of dumping it to your system and then turn out and dumping it on a rock. So nice and slow to get you hydrated in the morning. If you have a little bit of electrolyte drain, go ahead and pop it in there too. I really, when I'm not at Philmont, or even when I went, I took my own is the one I prefer. Doesn't have a lot of sugar and stuff like that in there. Drop that in my drink and sip that over 30 minutes to an hour.
So I'm sitting here questioning why they make some of the drinks like the All Sports. I drink All Sport, like no water, just All Sport all the time because it tastes phenomenal. Like I really enjoy it, and I'm gonna have to be more cognizant of not overdoing that when I'm out in the woods, and sharing that with other folks when we're out there. I think when it comes to the role of the advisors, we're kind of the health and safety monitors. While I hope that we don't take over the crews, we may want to be whispering in the crew leader's ear, periodically, hey, make sure people aren't overdoing their electrolytes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so let me do a time check here. We got about 20 minutes left. What other things do we need to talk about? Why don't we, Curtis, think about if there are any other crew leader, crew advisor interaction or other things you want to talk about. Andy, we're going to come back to anything people need to know about Trek selection. We haven't talked. I did want to mention that BSA has, right now they call it High Adventure Week, and that is where they have made it available for people to sign up. Here, let me get that on the screen here. You'd think I would have preloaded this, but I just thought, you know what, I'm going to share this email because I think that'll be the best way to look at it. Because the High Adventure Base is Summit, Northern Tier, Philmont Sea Base. Philmont's the only one that has already had this available for people to do signups. So the rest of them have just become available. Now it looks like 14, 15, and 16 are the registration opening. So Summit today, Northern Tier tomorrow, Sea Base the next day, if I'm reading that right. So it's a little late for people to just be jumping on that initial sign up. Like if you hadn't thought about going to Northern Tier, probably want to talk to your unit before you sign them up tomorrow. But just a reminder that they've timed these to be High Adventure Week, so we can talk about them all week and talk about the different places you can go. I know we've got some discussions that were going on here before we came live about was it Rob's going to Sea Base, I think.
Bahamas.
And we've had people go to everything, right? I don't consider it cheating on Philmont if you want to take your scouts to a different High Adventure Base. I think Philmont understands and they support it. Well, they sort of understand. I don't want to speak for them because we are very unofficial, but I think that they probably respect that more than, hey, we're going to go to Kings Island or Carowinds or something as a troop. No. Take them to one of the high adventure bases if you're not going to go to Philmont. Okay, so that was one thing to talk about, was the reminder of High Adventure Week. You can go find those on the Scouting America websites and the websites for each one of those camps, and also the reminder that we are unofficial. We've already talked about that a couple times, right? The official Preparedness seminar that's put on by the staff of Philmont proper, that happens every month pretty much once we get into Trek prep season. And I believe, if I read the schedule correctly, tomorrow, January 15th, they will be talking about health and safety and answering questions from the audience at Philmont's official Preparedness seminar. You can find that by going on the Philmont website, and somewhere in there they have links to the Preparedness seminar. There it is. I can share this with you guys, because we always want you to get everything you can out of our discussions and ask questions. And we have more people, and thereby it's a little easier to have like open discussions, but they're going to give you the official answer. So I'd like to think we complement each other. But the next one, January 15th, and then they'll be early in February. And they're doing twice, food and cooking and individual treks, both in February. Base camp procedures in March, and then in April they have last minute stuff, announcements and updates. So certainly be sure to check those out and get the information right from the horse's mouth, so to speak. So, and I'm just gonna say that Matt Hart is the horse in this scenario. I don't want to leave any questions about who am I calling a horse. We'll just call it Matt. Matt's the highest ranking person, is typically on those. We're just going to throw him under the bus and say that he's the horse in this scenario. So, all right. Any other agenda items that we had? I don't think so. So, Andy, you want to hit anything else for Trek selection that we didn't talk about?
I think we went through quite a bit of it. We're trying to get everybody to look at the itineraries. We're having a couple different of the meetings where the boys are bringing that stuff in now that it's all been officially published. They can get copies. We've emailed those out, so everybody's had a chance to kind of look at them. And then as a group, we just sit and talk a little bit about what are some things that they want to partake in. What are some things, and none of the boys have been, so it's and I'm the only one of the leadership that's gone previously too. So we can talk a little bit about what the different activities are. There's a lot of information both on the Philmont website and out there in on the internet, on YouTube, on things like that. So the kids can kind of see what some of those types of things are, and they start to get kind of an idea of different activities that they want to look for. So we've had a really good conversation group chat of just, dads and boys just throwing out ideas. Hey, what do you guys think about this kind of activity or this kind of trek? And now we're at the point where it's like, okay, everybody submit your top 3, and we're tabulating all that stuff. So nice. Scoutmaster will just eventually publish, here's what we've got. We've got so many votes for this one, and this one. Here's our finalist, and then we'll decide.
Sure. So for the crew that you're working with, have they already selected any of the elected positions, or do they have a schedule for doing that for the crew leader and whatnot?
No, we haven't done that yet. So that'll probably be, I think, as we get into February, maybe the end of it. We'll be looking at here in Indiana. We do that typically before we do our shakedown hikes. So we have, I think, 2 that are planned for. I think the earliest one is early April, I think, and then May, that kind of time frame. So, and then we're looking to be out at Philmont the end of June. So those positions we'll select before we start our shakedown hikes, so that those boys can start to prepare for, as we do the shakedown hikes, we do them exactly like we would want to do them at Philmont. So you've got your different positions, and then we'll have different boys, not one of the three main positions, that will serve as maybe navigation for a day, or, those kind of things, helping with cooking or cleaning dishes or whatnot. And then those rotate. But that gives us, I think, more effective shakedowns than just let's go try our gear out and see if it works and then amend our gear list. We also want to practice, everything from, cooking, cleanup, setting up as groups, bear bags when we can. It's a little tough to train for the cable method here at home, but we want to get as much practice in on that kind of stuff, just so that when we get out there, it's not learning on the fly. We've done it many times.
Nice. Good. Anyone else have any other closing thoughts on Trek selection before we move on? Nope. Okay. So Curtis, I appreciate the bit of medical stuff we talked about already. How about any thoughts on, we had talked about some other things to talk about. Now I'm blanking on what they were. I think part of it was just the idea that you've been an advisor for crews many, many times. What other things at this point would you suggest people be thinking about?
Yeah. So we're talking about your crew leader and how you can best prepare them
Right.
for your trek. And a lot of times we roll in, and the adults have led pretty much all of the shakedowns and stuff like that. And then you get to Philmont, and you're like, okay, it's yours. Have fun. And then when they don't do it, or stuff is not right, then you have to step back in, and then you're kind of creating that confusion.
Yeah.
So it's I encourage everybody to engage your crew leader early on in the process. Start laying down those expectations about what's going on. You're going to teach them how to use the equipment, and they're going to help. They're going to teach the rest of the crew on using those backpacking stoves. What are the processes? They're throwing those bear lines and stuff like that. So we're not over there doing that. I can't tell you. I think they called me over there one time to do a bear line, and that's because it got caught.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. It is. I don't want to say it's entertaining, but sometimes it's entertaining.
They nodded there pretty good. You weren't getting that sucker off, so you have to cut it and do stuff like that.
It can be entertaining to see the look of pure fear in the crew leader's eyes when the ranger will only talk to them, and they're like, "What's going on? Yeah. I've never actually been allowed to lead before." So yeah, I think point taken. Make sure that you're giving them the tools they need, that they can get comfortable in that leadership role before they actually arrive at the ranch. Yeah, awesome. So looking over our agenda, I think we covered just about everything. No one has said anything yet, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you why I have been wearing this ridiculous hat. This whole program, I wanted to really kind of call out the folks that are working out there at Philmont during the winter season, because I would need like one of these hat full of the little heater packets, as well as like a vest. I would look like people would think I'm a bomber because I'd have wires and packets everywhere, and they'd be like battery packs and heaters. I'm not blowing anything up. I just don't want to get cold. So I know that today some of the cons people who are going to be doing trail work crews out during the winter season are arriving and starting some training. And then the next few days, some more of them are going to show up. Within the next week, they're going to start headed out there. Like, we're all freezing, right? And they're going out there and doing work in the backcountry day after day. So I wanted to call them out and recognize that they are stronger, better people than me, because I don't do cold well. And I certainly wouldn't want to be out, burying sumps in the backcountry, in the next month or two. So good on them.
7 degrees this morning at Philmont.
Yeah, I saw, what was it, Terry, I think one of the, is Hairston, I can't remember how to pronounce the last name, post pictures periodically from the ranch. And there was some nice, wispy snow everywhere. And you could look at the picture and see how cold everything was. It was just very visible in the picture. And I was like, better them than me. But good on all the people who are out there still doing the work in the off season, so that we can go out there when the weather's nice in the summer and enjoy Philmont. So thanks to all the people out there enduring the weather for us in the off season, which also reminds me, I think that session 2 of Phil Break is fully booked, is what I heard. And there were still, as of a day or two ago, there were still a few slots left in session 1. So those are in March, back-to-back weeks of, if anyone wants to get to the ranch and see a little behind the scenes and also get back a little bit and do it on a budget. We all know that a trek is expensive because there are a lot of reasons why they're expensive, but Phil Break, you're there for a week and it's $160 to cover food and lodging. And then you go out and you work for the rest of the privilege of being there, doing service projects, which are supposed to be centered around slash piles, burning the piles that were made over the summer and been allowed to dry for the last 6 months or so, weather permitting. So if anyone's interested in that, you can go to the Philmont website or the PSA website and find the information on those. And you do not have to be a Philmont Staff Association member to go to Phil Break. That used to be a rule, but it is not the rule for this year. It can vary from year to year, I'm told.
So Jeff, I was just on there before we came on, and I think session 2 was still open, but it might be like 1 or 2 slots.
There was some back and forth in a discussion with Phil, who manages the Phil Break program, saying he thought it was full, but maybe not. And I didn't see what the resolution on that was. So if anyone's interested in that, you need to check and see if there's any availability listed on the website. And if there are any questions, reach out to Phil, and because his contact information is on the information page. Ask any questions you have. Make your decision. Get that done quick. I am currently slated to go out for the second session, although there is a somewhat remote possibility that one of my kids will want to use their college spring break, which is session 1, to go out, in which case I'll move and we'll go out together and do that. But currently I'm scheduled to be in session 2. So I'm excited about that.
The Spring Service Corps is full.
Okay.
And that's like the first week of April. But that's PSA only. Another reason everybody should go back and work on Philmont staff. Yeah.
Is so you can be able to go to the private events just for PSA. Okay. All right. Good. All right. We've just about exhausted our hour. Is there anything, any panelists have anything, anyone out there in the comments have anything that we missed that we need to talk about?
I just wanted to say one thing that I was thinking about when we talk about getting ready to go to Philmont and thinking about when you're going. Everybody is in a big hurry to get in there. And then when they're done with their trek, they're in a big hurry to get out of there. But I'll never forget my first trip to Philmont. My advisor was a seasoned advisor and had taken many a cruise to Philmont. And he made sure that we went into the old mill museum in Cimarron and saw some of those things. And especially if you get a chance to do it before you trek, it gives you an opportunity to have a little more time to acclimatize, and it gives you a little bit more insight to the history of the area and where you're going and what you're doing and some of the history. And it kind of ties it all together. So if you got a chance to get in there and go do those things before you hit base camp, I think it's always a positive.
That's something that we posted a video. Harold from the museum, we posted a video this summer where he was explaining kind of that same rationale for if you hit the scouting museum. So you're talking about the museum in town. Right. That I think, is it open again, or has it been open again this past year? So it had been closed for a few years, and I don't know if it's reopened, that mill museum, but I went to that decades ago. That was really neat.
It's still open. It's just got I think like a Memorial Day to Labor Day season.
I think they had some staffing problems. They couldn't get anyone to unlock the door a few years ago.
Yeah, I think after Buddy retired,
yeah,
there was a window there. They didn't have anybody to do it.
But the idea of you're going to hear a lot of things, you're going to learn a lot of things, you'll see a lot of things in the backcountry when you're on a trek, and especially at the interpretive camps where they're acting kind of in period and presenting things as they were at some point in the past. If you've been to the Villa Tour, to the Scouting Museum, to the Mill Museum, if you've seen some of the things in the area, it's going to give you a little bit of additional context that may provide additional meaning and meaningfulness to people on the trek. So do those things ahead of time. Really just echoing what you already said. But that's how Harold presented it. And it really got me thinking afterwards, like, I'd always gone with crews who hit the villa afterwards and hit the museum afterwards. And I could really see where that additional context would help make a lot of the history that you see and interact with in the backcountry a little bit more meaningful if you are able to digest a little bit of that before hitting the trail. So, all right. Well, that's our time. So thank you so much to all the panelists, all the people who left us comments. We really appreciate you. We do this on, usually we shoot for the second Tuesday of each month at 9 p.m. Eastern. Please follow along with the group on Facebook. You can find that down in the description if you found the video but don't know about the Philmont Trek Talk group on Facebook. That's how you find us. So I think we covered everything. Is anybody not ready?
Hi, Con.